his head, if you ask him how he is, he will say, I'm fine. But inside, you will be seeing that he is very much in a state of stress. There are mainly two kinds of stress. One is due to acute situations, which we call as type 1 stress, which we commonly, it is identifiable, like it is resulting from either a very acute tragic accident or shocking news or something like that. It's a very common reaction. Our body is preparing us for a fight or flight response. The effects are dramatic and they are short-lived. Whenever the situation passes away, we are again in our normal calm and quiet mode. There is another type 2 stress that we are more bothered about. Here, the source is not very clear and not very immediate. Something is worrying us from deep within, like a chronic conflict or overwork, continuous worry. These effects are ongoing and they will lead to many long-term effects. Next slide, please. If you see these two situations, one horse is able to carry much load without much discomfort on the right side. Whereas if you are seeing the left side, the horse is very much under distress. It is not able to handle or manage the responsibility that has been given to it. Or we can say it is overwhelmed by the responsibilities that have been given to it. Usually we find ourselves in such situations where we are much more overwhelmed by the responsibilities, overworked, and we are not able to cope with the situation and we collapse. If our inner state is one of balance and equipoise, you can say that we can carry even much higher load than we are capable of, much higher responsibilities. So this session, we are trying to equip you with some tools that you can practice at home easily. That will lead to a situation of the eustress rather than distress. You see, whenever we are in a stressful situation, automatically adrenaline is produced in our body. If there is not any activity and we are totally relaxed and sleepy condition, we are not prodded into any activity. We are in a calm and wide awake state. As the level of activity increases, the secretion of adrenaline increases in our body, which is good. Some adrenaline is good for our activity. It leads us to an alert and excited state so that we can indulge in any activity. But once it starts increasing out of proportion, and then it leads to bad effects like bad temper, worry, fear, panic, and situation like that. And then we are not in control of ourselves to respond to many situations. This increased secretion of adrenaline has deleterious effects on all the aspects of our body. Each and every organ is affected by this. As a state of inner worry or stress, if it continues for a very long time, you see that all the major organs like skin, heart, stomach, muscles, blood vessels, bowel, lungs, eyes, everything starts getting affected by the side effects of increased levels of catecholamines in our body. So let's see a short video of what is a good stress and a bad stress.
Stress is a part of life, and it's not always a bad part of life. Most of us enjoy good stress is a part of life, and it's not always a bad part of life. Most of us enjoy good stress in small doses, like roller coasters, watching sports, or even a scary movie. That's the kind of stress that keeps us young and on our toes. Then there's bad stress, or worse, chronic stress. Negative stress isn't just in your head. It can affect us both mentally and physically. Stress hormones in the body for extended periods of time can physically age our cells. So when you're stressed at work or home, your cells look and act older, making you look older and even impacting your immune system. Not only does it add years to your appearance, it can also affect your memory, making brain cells shrink permanently. Even short-term stress can make it hard for you to remember simple things. The good news is, you can manage stress now to prevent more damage to your body and mind tomorrow. Stress management is a skill that can be learned. Check out Blue KC's Tips to Manage Stress video for ways to beat stress for a longer, healthier, and happier life.
So one good thing about stress is that it can be managed by proper management, which is called as resiliency, the capacity to bounce back after a fall. It is not in our hands to not fall down. There are so many situations in life where we are bound to be put down, where we are bound to, falter, be down for some time. But the ability to bounce back, that is most important, to come back to life, to come back to a situation where we can deal with it in a very confident way. So this is resiliency in brief. What is resiliency? Resilience is the capacity to respond to stress in a healthy way, such that goals are achieved at minimum psychological and physical cost. Resilient individuals, they bounce back after challenges while also growing stronger. Usually, stressful situations, bad conditions, they put us down, they make us weak. But if you are prepared well in an inside way, with a strong heart, with a flexible heart, with a way that you can respond correctly to situations, then you grow stronger with challenges. You are dynamic and flexible to adapt to changes, to life situations. And you develop an ability to withstand adversity in a much more better way. They say it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. So what does a state of resilience do to us? Resilience, it's not that it will prevent us from challenges coming our way, but it will help us to prepare and tackle in a much more better way whatever comes our way. And it helps us deal with increased workload, difficult co-workers, and other challenges that may come our way. That is the beauty of a resilient individual. And this state, the topic that we are going to deal today, meditation, it is very much helpful in developing us this kind of situation, this kind of inner state. It will prepare our heart in such a way that instead of being a worrying and a stressful individual, we are able to be confident and resilient individuals. So resilience, the importance of resilience is why we need such a state to be within us. It leads to improved learning and academic achievement, lower absences from work or study due to sickness, increased involvement in community or family activities. If you see a depressed individual, an individual who is not very much up to life, you will commonly observe that he likes to be left alone, just leave me alone. I just want to sit in a corner and not involve myself in any activity. But with a resilient individual, an individual who is up and about with himself, he is able to involve much more actively in all the community and family activities. And you will see that we are less inclined to fall into traps of taking temporary solace in habits like drinking, smoking, and use of drugs. It's much more important in young individuals, youth, our children, that we teach these techniques of meditation, relaxation from a very young age so that they are able to cope up with life in a much more positive way. It will lead to even increased physical health, connectivity with people improves, and overall, it gives a sense of joy in our life. And with a joyful state of mind, we are able to tackle the life in a much more better way. So let's watch a short video on what is this resilient state.
Resilience is your ability to take whatever life throws at you and keep going. It's about bouncing back after failure or trouble. Resilient people are resistant to the negative effects of stress. Challenges and problems are energizing instead of scary. Resilience gives you patience, it improves your performance, and it equips you to make tough decisions. The best part of resilience? It can be trained. Militaries all over the world hire psychologists to help their troops become more resilient. You can work on your ability to handle stressful events using the activities that we've laid out for you.
So now we hear here that the best part of resilience also is that it can be trained. So what are the strategies that we can use of being resilient individuals instead of stressful individuals? There's some of the common things that usually, as qualified anesthesiologists, as doctors, we will be trying all these things in our day-to-day life. Many of us may be familiar with all these things also. We should find a support system to, relieve ourselves, to talk to someone. And this is a common situation. We should have some good friends. And here, today what we are talking is that we develop a friend within our heart. Someone or some state of existence where we are so much at peace with ourselves that we can rely on this inner situation and communicate with it, be able to communicate with and come out of any stressful situation much more successfully. Because as they say, life is only 10% of what happens to us, but 90% is how we react. It is our attitude to life that makes us, or that makes one individual a frustrated individual, a happy individual, or a joyful individual. So this change of attitude towards life, how to cultivate a resilient state, a joyful state within. For some, it comes as a natural ability in their natural course of life, that they are able to be, as we call happy-go-lucky individuals, instead of, always grumbling and, morose individuals. But even those who are not having this state naturally, it can be very, very easily cultivated within with some amount of practice, with some set of spiritual practices, which can be done very easily in our day-to-day setups. We need to set some practical goals for our life instead of, imagining that I should be automatically like Bill Gates or Mukesh Ambani and grumbling that we are not having so much of wealth and comparing ourselves with always people that we are having less than them. Be thankful for what you are having. a change in attitude towards life, and getting properly organized with small things in our life. You see, if our working table or working room, if it is full of clutter, it will always be poking in our eyes, and we will lead a frustrated and poorly planned life. It will take very little effort, small effort to organize everything, little things in and around our life, which will change our attitude towards the life in a much more positive way. Take breaks from the hectic schedules. Give yourself enough time, enough leisure, enough holidaying, so that the body is reset to perform much better. Recently, we hear that, in the world now, instead of 5 days a week, they are coming up with 4.5. Or in even New Zealand, I heard that they are coming up with the 4 days a week work schedule. And they are seeing that the efficiency has increased in that 4 days. They are able to put up much more work what they could have done in 7 days. So many things may not be in our hand also, but slowly and actively we can plan towards rescheduling our work with enough gaps in between. Diet, exercise, and sleep. I cannot stress much more that to lead a peaceful, balanced, and joyous life, the importance of a proper, balanced, and healthy diet, proper exercise, and a very, very good sleep. And these meditation techniques that I will be teaching today, relaxation and meditation techniques, so many studies have been seen that it improves the quality and quantity of sleep both. We should choose our battles wisely. As they say, don't tire yourself. If you take a sword and wage a battle with the air, you're not going to achieve anything. Instead of that, you should choose where we can make a difference. There is a very beautiful quotation which says, "Oh Lord, give me the wisdom to change what I can change and accept what I cannot change. And more importantly, give me the wisdom to differentiate between these two, what I can change and what I cannot change." Much of our frustration in life, much of our grumbles in life will be with situations where we will be trying to change people, change situations where there is very little chance of a change. Instead of that, the system of spirituality says that you have 100% control of your own self. You can have 100% ability to change your own self so that you change the perspective of life rather than trying to change others, which will give you a much more joyous and productive life. And maintaining proper perspective of life, maintaining flexible thinking, finding alternate path towards the goals. You put a big boulder or stone in the path of a flowing stream of water, you see that some stream will go left side, some stream will go right side, and automatically, slowly, it will take its own path and join together, and it will continue its journey towards your goal. It will not grumble. Like that, in our path of life, in our journey of life, whatever difficulties may come, if we choose to reach the goals, we will find so many alternate paths, which instead of leading us into a state of frustration, which will lead us into a state of acceptance. We can say joyous acceptance instead of frustration. That is the way we have to build a resilience. So be decisive and timely in taking decisions. These are some of the physical strategies. As doctors, we all know about these strategies. There's nothing new that I'm telling you about this. The only thing is putting them into practice. How to gain an ability that we put all these things into practice and within our heart achieve a state which will transform us, which will change us into resilient individuals. There's a beautiful quotation by Mary Holloway. Resilience is knowing that you are the only one that has the power and the responsibility to pick yourself up. No one else. We can get help from people only when we make an effort ourselves to change our attitude, our behavior. So how to experience this resilient state through heartfulness meditation? This is a system of meditation that I have been doing and personally very much benefited. So I am making today a small effort to let you know, or you can say today's session will be just like giving you a small sample of this practice session. So what is heartfulness? It's a heart-centered approach to life, where you live each moment by the heart. You say there can be a brain-centered approach and heart-centered approach, or a thought-centered approach, or a calculative approach, or a feeling-centered approach to life, which can lead us into a very joyous and happy life, rather than being always, very calculative about life. Life will not go many times according to our calculations. Life will go according to its own natural stream. How we accept it, how we face the challenges with a strong heart, with a resilient heart, with a broad heart, with a flexible heart, with a joyous heart. That makes all the difference to how we live this life. And there's a short video that I'll be playing. What is this special state that we should live in?
Training the mind is often quite different to how people imagine it to be. Maybe they have an idea it's about stopping thoughts or eliminating feelings, but the reality is a bit different. An easy way to think of it is to imagine yourself sitting on the side of a busy road, the passing cars representing the thoughts and the feelings. All you have to do is to sit there and watch the cars. Sounds easy, right? But what usually happens is that we feel a bit unsettled by the movement of the traffic. So we run out into the road and try and stop the cars, or maybe even chase after a few, forgetting that the idea was to just sit here. And of course, all of this running around only adds to the feeling of restlessness in the mind. So training the mind is about changing our relationship with the passing thoughts and feelings, learning how to view them with a little more perspective. And when we do this, we naturally find a place of calm. Will we sometimes forget the idea of the exercise and become distracted? Of course we will. But as soon as we remember, here we are, back on the side of the road again, just watching the traffic go by, perfectly at ease in both body and mind. Training the mind is often quite different to how people imagine it.
So how to develop such a state of mind where we can just relax and lead life as a witness, as an observer of what all is happening before us? How to move aside instead of getting involved? So there are some techniques that I will be speaking about today, and let you have a practical experience of these techniques. I will be guiding you through these techniques that we will do a small practice of meditation today. The heartfulness approach to life, the heartfulness meditation system. It's a small practice system which has 3-4 main components: how to relax the body, how to meditate, to settle your mind or to regulate your mind. There's a technique of unwinding or rejuvenation, a technique to clear your mind and rejuvenate. And there's a technique to connect to the self. They look so simple, but yet are so effective if you try it for some days. Meditation helps in achieving a state of focus. Rejuvenation helps to change our attitude, to change our inner tendencies. And a night prayer meditation helps us in achieving a state of poise. So 3 techniques I will be talking about, which heartfulness meditation system comprises of. A system of meditation that we do in the morning, early morning, whenever it is possible. A system of rejuvenation or cleaning that we do in the evening when we come back from the work. And a small prayer meditation or connecting with our inner self that we do just before going to bed. So we start to know the philosophy of each of these techniques in a brief way, and then we go into the practical sessions. I'll start with the nighttime prayer meditation or connecting with the source. You see, once we finish all the day's work and we are just ready to go to sleep, at that time, what thoughts we put in our subconscious mind, they say they work out throughout the night. It is in our capacity to do the maximum that we are able to do, that is in our hand. To do something extra other than that, how to improve our abilities, we have to put that thought in our subconscious mind. And with a gentle prayer, if we go to sleep, our sleep will be ennobled, and you can say it will become a yogic nidra, you can say. So this technique of 5 to 10 minutes prayer meditation we do in the night. In the evening, there is a cleaning technique or rejuvenation, we call it. Throughout the day, we will be facing with so many events, people, will be encompassing so many things which will color our vision. You see, if there is a light burning and we put so many colored glasses before it, naturally, our vision will be colored to that extent. Whatever color we put, we see the reality in that light or in that color, but the reality may be something very different. So how to see the reality that is within our hearts in a very clear fashion? How to declutter our vision? How to clarify this inner perception where I can view my heart in a pure and simple manner? That ability, this technique of cleaning or rejuvenation will give us. It's a simple practical technique that we do in the evening, which will help us let go of the past, rejuvenate us, to enables us to manage our emotions better and refreshes our body and mind. You see, just as we come back from work, and if we have a shower or wash our face with cold water, how fresh we will feel. This is a technique of inner cleansing, which will make us even more fresher. We can just sit quietly. If you are able to sit in a squatting position, okay. Otherwise, you can just sit on a chair in a natural fashion, and we can do this technique of cleaning. So for 5 minutes, I request everyone that we do this practice of mental cleaning with our eyes closed, just to have a small grip of it. The technique is very simple. We just mentally suggest that all impurities and complexities are going out of your system from the back in the form of smoke. We imagine, we take our attention to the back from the top of the head to the tip of our tailbone. And we just imagine that complexities or impurities are going out. So if you are all ready, we'll just close our eyes for some time and say for about next 5 minutes, I will just guide you through this technique of cleaning, and you can practically do it yourself and see how you feel after this few minutes of mental cleaning. Just close your eyes gently and imagine that all the impurities and complexities are going out of your system through the back in the form of smoke or vapor. We gently close our eyes and take our attention to our back. From the top of the head to the tip of our tailbone, with a gentle suggestion to ourselves, we imagine that impurities and complexities are melting and going away from the back. We accelerate this process just like we are burning some trash and throwing it away from our system. We just imagine with our willpower that my system is getting decluttered. It is getting purified from all the impurities and complexities within myself. Now, as the impurities leave our system, automatically a state of purity starts to emerge from within. And as the complexities leave our system, a state of simplicity starts to arise within. We imagine that a pure current from the front is entering our system. A current of purity and simplicity is entering us and passing us through and through, and carrying with it all the complexities and impurities that are left out. This is a simple and gentle mental suggestion that we give to ourselves. You can say it is a self-suggestion. We are using our thought power, our willpower to cleanse our inner system. All the impurities and complexities within us are created by our thought process only. So we take the help of that same thought process or our willpower to dissolve these things. I dissolve my own creation, my own making, my own impurities, things that are putting me down, things that are making me heavy. But when we don't imagine any specific situations, this is a general suggestion, like we just put water and have a bath. We just imagine that this stream of purity and simplicity is passing through us and carrying away all the impurities and complexities. So after some time, we end this small session of rejuvenation with a thought that now we have become clean and light. So that's all. Now we can open our eyes. Every day evening, if some of you are inclined to try this system, you can do this technique for 15 to 20 minutes, that this cleaning process is getting completed. and see what kind of lightness it can give in our inner system. So after explaining to you this evening method, now we come to the main technique of heartfulness system, that is the meditation that we do in the morning. So what is this meditation? Meditation is like a pause which gives us a 360-degree view of the situation before reacting to any situation. You see, imagine if I write a sentence, my name is Dr. Gajendra Singh, without any gap in between the words. We will not be able to read it at all. Once we give this space between the words, then only we are able to read the words. If you see what we have written on this slide, it is the space between the words that is giving meaning to the words. So they say it is the pause between the activities that gives meaning to the activities. One great saint has said that the power of the word comes from the depths of silence. The more depth there is to your state of being, to the state that you live your everyday life, that gives us this state of joy, this state of poise. So just imagine a situation where the hospital staff is under stress due to long hours of work and lack of sleep. And suppose they are not at their optimum to perform their duties. And you also come in a very irritable state, an angry state, and starts shouting at them. Will it improve the situation or worsen the situation? So instead of that, if we within ourselves have a condition of equanimity, a state of poise, a state of silence within, we can perform more efficiently and in a committed way as a professional. There are so many scientific research papers on meditation nowadays, that meditation is actually influencing the brain circuitry. They have done so many EEG studies. They have done so many MRI scan studies, like hotspot studies, which area of the brain is active during which type of activity. They have found that when we are sad, when we are depressed, when we are completely down, this right prefrontal cortex is very active. Instead of that, when we are joyous, when we are happy, when we are light-hearted, they have seen that the left prefrontal cortex is active. So up to this minute detail, people are doing scientific research now on the brain, how meditation is helping. Meditation helps the quality of sleep very much. There are various ways, those who may be experiencing difficulty in sleep and conditions of sleeplessness, you can try some of this technique. Meditation helps you to connect with your heart. A small relaxation technique I will be performing today practically. If we lie down and give a self-suggestion of that relaxation technique, it will help us in going to sleep in a very deep and quickly. And the cleaning technique that I just now demonstrated, that also will help us in sleeping. They say left nostril breathing. Say left nostril is connected to the sympathetic system, parasympathetic, sorry. The right nostril is connected to activity or sympathetic system. Whenever you are angry or in a mood of rage, we are disturbed, you can try this simple technique that just close your right nostril from one finger and to try to take 10 to 12 deep breaths only from your left nostril. Deep in and deep out, both from the left nostril only, and see how it helps us to calm down our mood immediately. Within 1 or 2 minutes, we can try this simple technique. Scientific research data is coming up. So many proper original articles since the last 5 to 6 hours. There is so much of proper research that is going on in this field of how meditation is actually helping. And this is not a hypothetical situation. How just by sitting with closed eyes, how it will help us? That question may be there in each and everyone's mind. Personally, I can vouch for the efficacy of this system because I have been doing it for the past now 23 years. This system of meditation is now more than 150-year-old. There are studies where they have seen that it lessens burnout, improves emotional wellness, and increases the telomere length, actual physical telomere length of the cells by meditation technique. They have studied heart rate variability improves and the sympatho-vagal balance improves by meditation. And they have measured EEG with, non-meditators, novice meditators who have been meditating only for a few months, and seasoned meditators who have been meditating for many years. And they have seen that occipital gamma waves, they improve. There's a vast difference. Improvement in perceived stress score, quality of sleep, and psychological well-being. This study was recently performed in COVID-19 pandemic, where virtual heartfulness meditation was seen to be helpful in improving all these states. In school children, in middle school children, they have seen that inculcating a value-based program was very much helpful. Meditation shortens time required to fall asleep, enhances the depth of sleep, and improves overall quality of sleep. This is one of the great benefits of meditation, which has seen that it completely refreshes a person. Even meditation itself, they say 1 hour of meditation may be equal to say 3 to 4 hours of actual sleep. That kind of deep inner relaxation it gives. It improved mental well-being in teenage group using heartfulness meditation and brainwave entertainment. In the US, this study was done where, teenage bubbling with activity, enthusiasm, restlessness. There they saw that using brainwave entertainment and entrainment and heartful meditation made so much difference in their attitude, behavior, and their inner state of being. And there was a study where a cyclic vomiting syndrome in more than 30 to 50 patients, there was seen a marked improvement in one of these conditions. So how does this meditation help? So meditation helps us to rewire, in your brain, the chemical composition also. It makes you happy and creates inner joy, and it will help you in coping up with stressful situations much better. So these are complementary techniques, meditation and cleaning. Meditation helps in self-regulation of the mind, and cleaning helps in removing habits and tendencies. There's a beautiful quotation from our Heartfulness Worldwide Guide. We call him as Daji. The purpose of meditation is to regulate the mind to such stillness that even during the most awful situations in life, we are able to pause, analyze the situation, and then take action accordingly. You see, it makes a vast difference when we react impulsively, when we react in rage, when we react with outburst. Instead of that, if we have a calm and quiet mind within, a state of tranquility within, a state of poise, it is not useful to us. Just see, during meditation, if say 15, 20, even 1 hour meditation, if we do, and we have this calm and quiet state during meditation, and then we have other 23 hours where we are interacting with real world, a world where so much activity, so much disturbance is happening. If we are not able to retain this meditative state within, then meditation is not useful at all. Heartfulness meditation, if practiced over even a small period of time, slowly it gives us, or it leads us into a meditative state where during our wakeful activities also, we will see that a meditative state is maintained within. Why is that so? So what is the speciality of this meditation? You might have heard of, hundreds of systems of meditation are there nowadays. So many techniques of meditation is there. So what is the speciality of this heartfulness system of meditation? Heartfulness system of meditation utilizes something called as a power of yogic transmission or pranahuti to train the seekers. When we meditate with a supplicant heart, with an open heart, the meditation sessions that are conducted in this system, it will facilitate the transmission of a subtle, of a very powerful, yet very loving energy. We cannot call it energy also. It is something so subtle, so sukshma we call it, a life-giving kind of thing, where we will be refreshed from within, where we will be nurtured from within. You see that in the summer, a tree, even though it is alive and all the leaves have fallen down, it gives an appearance as if it is not alive only. With the onset of rain, with the onset of the first shower, you see how the small leaves, they come up, and the tree, it blooms into life once again. So such a process, such a technique we have, it is called as pranahuti or pranasya prana. As our body survives on physical food, the source of life that is there within us, the soul we call it, that is nurtured by this, what we call as the life of life, or the pranasya prana we call it. You see, this is a very interesting slide, the different states of our mind. You come to we will start with the right lower quadrant, where we spend most of our time daydreaming. Between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock quadrant, if you see, it's not that time that I am referring to, it's the right lower quadrant. When our mind is effortless and it is not focused, that is the state of a normal mind. We have let it loose. We will be indulging in so many thoughts, so many activities that we are not even aware of. Once we try to make an effort to focus it, we come to the left lower quadrant. It leads us to a state of frustration, because we are not used to it. Our mind is not used to sitting quietly at one place for any length of time. You try to instruct your mind to do a small activity, focus on one thought for say even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it becomes a very frustrating exercise. And even if it get focused, we come to the left upper quadrant, where the mind is focused with effort. That gives us a state of concentration. It's a very good state, but a constant effort is required to concentrate on anything. A concentrated state of mind you cannot hold for longer period of time, because there is a constant effort which is being required to focus your energies on something. Now, the most beautiful state where a mind can dwell, where the mind can live happily and with joy, is in the right upper quadrant, where suppose if it is focused and effortless. I'll give a small example that you are watching an interesting serial or some program on the television. You are completely focused on that program. You are just enjoying. There is no effort and you are focused. See, this is the state of meditation. Now you may ask, sir, how can watching a TV program or indulging in an interesting activity be meditation? Yes, it is a meditation, but on what are you meditating? You are meditating on the TV program. That is the difference. We go to the next slide. Where it says, see, we all have a mind which is always thinking, that we call it as thought power. As you think, so you become. This is the philosophy of meditation. Whatever you think on continuously, constantly, with effort, if you think, that will become concentration. And if you are able to focus on that object without any effort, that will become meditation. It is as simple as that. Now let us understand some concept of grossness and subtleness. We take one substance, that is water. It is in a liquid state. You can say, if we solidify it, it assumes a shape. It will become ice. If you put it in a round vessel, it will become a round shaped. It will, if you put in a square box, it will become a square of ice. We can say the water that was in a liquid state, which was flexible, which was able to move on its own, we have solidified it. We have lessened its movement. We have turned it into a more solid object, which we call gross. Now this same water, which is in a liquid state, suppose we boil it, it will become water vapor. Now liquid was having some consistency. We were able to see it with our eyes. It was having some level of shape to it. But now once we heat it, it becomes vapor, which we are not able to see also. See, we have made it more refined, that we call it subtle. If you observe a person who is sad, who is depressed, he does not like to communicate with anybody. If you ask him what happened, he will not tell you anything. Just leave me alone. I am not feeling well. My heart is very heavy today. This is the sentence he will say. Compared to this, you try to talk to a person who is very joyous, maybe who has just got a promotion, or who has achieved something in life. Maybe just because of that activity, he is very happy now. He is very joy. You see the inner state of that person. He will say, I am on cloud 9. I am so light. I am floating in air. So now you can imagine that, compare these two states. The sadness is a heavy state and joy or ecstasy is a very subtle state, light state. So the philosophy of meditation says, as you think, so you become. If you are always brooding on sad thoughts, always brooding on gross objects, our inner state will go on becoming like that year after year. Now here in this meditation, the philosophy is we try to take an object which is most subtle. If you meditate on a mundane object, you will get a mundane consciousness, or a physical, any mundane substance which has a shape, color, size to it. It is a mundane object. You cannot expand your consciousness by meditating on any object. If you meditate on a profound object, you will get a profound consciousness. So what can be this profound? We cannot call it object also. So mundane versus profound, a something temporary versus something permanent, a something finite versus something infinite. So how can we achieve a state of mind which is both permanent and profound? We have to meditate on something which is profound, permanent, and infinite object. So meditation, we just saw a few times before that it is effortless focus. How can we effortlessly focus within our own heart that something is giving us this inner state of lightness and joy? So here we try to do a simple relaxation and meditation technique for a few minutes now with our closed eyes. You can sit relaxed, your closed eyes. What we have to do is we have to just sit comfortably, close our eyes and gently relax. Think that there is a source of light in your heart and it is pulling your attention inwards. Light, the first time when I heard that light has no shape, form, it is not visible to our naked eye also, I was very surprised. Light is only reflected back and we see the objects on which light falls. Light is not visible to our eyes also. It is so subtle. So we just imagine that such a source of light, not even light, a source of light, a divine light is there in our heart. This is the most subtlest suggestion that we can give to ourselves. That is what our masters have found after so much of research. So we, for the next, say about 10 minutes, we will do this practical technique. We sit comfortably and gently close our eyes. And I guide you through a relaxation technique and few minutes of meditation. And then we open our eyes once again. So we begin this relaxation technique. Gently close your eyes, sit relaxed, and we start by taking our attention to our toes and feel that a divine energy from Mother Earth is entering our system from the earth, slowly helping us to relax our feet. Gently imagine that energy from Mother Earth is entering your system through the toes, through the feet, and gently ascending upwards. Feel the relaxation in your feet. Now slowly ascending up your ankles, your calf muscles, our knees, the thighs. Let the soothing energy gently travel up your body, relaxing each and every muscle of your body. Our calf muscles, thighs are completely relaxed. Now feel the relaxation in your hip area. Gently feel the soothing energy ascend up your backbone, relaxing your back and all the back muscles up to the upper part of the backbone. Now feel the spread of this energy in your abdomen and chest. Feel the relaxation in the abdomen. Feel the relaxation in the chest. Let the energy percolate in both the shoulders. Feel both the shoulders melting away in the effect of this subtle energy. Let it travel down your arms, relaxing your arms, relaxing your forearms, relaxing all the fingers. Feel the relaxation in both the upper limbs. Let the energy relax your neck muscles completely. Now feel the relaxation in all the parts of your face. Relaxing the jaw, relax the lips, the nose, the eyelids, forehead, and the top of the head. Now our whole system is filled up with this soothing energy from the top of the head to the tip of the toe. Feel the relaxation completely. If you feel any strain or pressure in any part of your body, imagine that this soothing energy is percolating that area, helping you to relax all the cells of that part completely. Now your whole system is filled with this soothing energy, which is giving you complete lightness. We are feeling as if we are floating in the air. The whole system is completely relaxed. Now we gently bring our attention in our heart. We give a gentle suggestion to ourselves that a source of divine light is present deep within our heart, and it is attracting all our attention within. The source of light that is present in our heart is attracting our attention within. Stay with this thought for a few minutes. If you feel that your attention is being drifted away in any other thought, and when you are reminded that you are sitting now for meditation, gently divert your attention and again try to effortlessly put your attention in your heart with the supposition that a divine light present within your heart is attracting all your attention within. Let us try to spend few minutes in this soothing feeling. We just sit comfortably with our eyes closed. With a gentle diversion of our attention in our heart. Imagining that we are coming in contact with the source of light that is within us. Try to dive deep within yourself. Let your whole self be absorbed in this deep within. We will spend some more moments silently in this feeling. That's all. Now we gently come up again to the surface and try to observe our inner self, a state of calm and quiet that has been created in our heart, that with a little practice, we will be able to carry with us throughout the day of our activity. So this meditation, usually we do it in the early morning in our home. It's a system of meditation where you can feel the inner calm, or you can make some notes for yourself about how you feel after this meditation. There's a short video about this heartfulness movement that we are running. After this video, we will be concluding our presentation.
In a world full of chaos, stress, and anxiety, we all need a moment of peace. A moment when we let go of all worries. A moment that charges us to take on life's challenges. A moment when we plunge within ourselves and come out refreshed. A moment of simplicity. A moment of happiness. The source of real happiness lies within each of us, in our hearts. We just need to learn to connect with it.
Our entire life is led by feelings and inspirations, and that is the role of the heart. And when we manage to listen to the feelings and capture the inspirations that comes from within, I think we can master our life by listening to heart again and again.
Heartfulness meditation is a form of Raja Yoga that teaches us how to connect to our heart. As one learns how to meditate deeply, letting go of all mental complexities and tuning into the heart, a sense of inner balance and calmness begins to prevail.
The whole exercise of fine-tuning the heart with the mind is through this meditation on the heart. That's why we call this process heartfulness meditation.
This simple yet effective system has been prevalent for more than 100 years. Today, it is followed by over 1 million people across 120 countries. Thousands of meditation, retreat, and research facilities serve as centers where individuals from all walks of life, diverse nationalities, different religious backgrounds, various social and economic circumstances come together, transcending boundaries in an atmosphere of love, trust, and brotherhood. With a significant online presence, the Heartfulness app, YouTube channel, Heartfulness magazine, and a rich body of literature makes the practice easily available to seekers. The Heartfulness Institute is a nonprofit organization that brings the heartfulness meditation and relaxation methods to individuals, corporations, universities, schools, and communities. Thousands of volunteers and more than 6,000 certified trainers around the globe allow the services of the Institute to reach individuals totally free of charge. The vision of the Founding Fathers has been to create a society that is heart-centered, loving,
and compassionate. Change in society can happen only through a change in each individual. Heartfulness is both an individual practice as well as a unifying movement.
So we come to the conclusion of this talk. It's a heart-centered approach. Hope you enjoyed it. To know more about heartfulness wellness initiatives, you can email us at in.cma@heartfulness.org. On behalf of the Heartfulness team and on my behalf, I sincerely thank all the officials and the management of Indian College of Anesthesiologists for giving us this opportunity to present this refreshing talk. Thank you so much. So these are some of the initiatives that are available online. All the Heartfulness apps, all the system is completely free of charge. There are so many initiatives and the website is called heartfulness.org. I have personally benefited immensely from this system of meditation, and I highly recommend it to all my dear friends. So thank you so much. I end my talk here. Brother Shibu, you want to conclude?
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful talk. It actually took us through a real meditation, actually, and rejuvenated our mind and soul. My sincere thanks and gratitude, expressing my gratitude to Indian Society of Anesthesiologists and to my best friend, Dr. Sanish and Radhakshan sir. We can continue this CME with further talks. Thank you very much, sir. A very good night to everyone. Over to you.
We'll open this session for interactive session. Radhakrishnan sir, your comments, sir. Sir, you need to unmute, sir. So I have enabled the microphone for the audience. So anybody wants to clarify something or interact with Dr. Gajendra, you can press on raise your hand option and we'll take your questions. Radhakrishnan sir?
Gajendra, can I, Sanish?
Yes, sir, please.
Gajendra, thank you very much.
Good evening, sir.
Mate, yenri?
Namaskara, sir.
Namaskara. Mate, it was really nice.
Madhusudan is my teacher.
It was really nice. You kind of opened our heart into
yes, sir.
what we should do with the heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Iga, do you have anything specific for specific diseases like hypertension or diabetes? Do you have anything specific? The way you do
No,
the
sir, this
meditation.
system of meditation, what I feel and have been doing, generally it will take care all the psychosomatic factors at least.
Huh.
Apart from at least organic components may not be so
Okay.
well taken care of. Psychosomatic factors definitely, stress related, hypertension, diabetes, any other disease, definitely it will be helpful. This cleaning system and this transmission system will really fill us with inner vitality, that you can feel that transmission when you do this system of meditation, sir.
You always suggest it in the morning, to be done in the morning. Not
morning is better for
anytime.
meditation, sir. Cleaning is in the evening.
Okay. Okay. Very nice.
There's a very good app, sir. Hearts app.
I will download
Android,
it now. I will download it.
Yeah, very helpful. It will guide you all
Sure,
the
Gajendra.
procedure.
Sure.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gayatri ma'am, you are with us?
She has left, I think.
BRK sir, your mic is mute. You need to unmute, sir. LD Mr. Sir is there. So you want to give any comments, sir? So as it happens with all our ICA webinars, we'll be issuing the e-certificate of attendance. You can find the feedback link in the Zoom chat. So you can click on the feedback link and fill in your email ID and address, how it should appear on your e-certificate, and you'll receive it instantly. From the audience, any more query, interaction? Radhakrishnan sir, your mic, you can unmute, sir. Dr. Gajendra, if you don't mind, I have a query.
Yes, sir.
We usually speak about mind, heart, and soul. Is there any connection between these things, or these are philosophically separate entities? I know the answer may be huge.
Actually, as medical professionals, we are well aware of the existence of brain. We have dissected, we have seen dead brains, live brains. The concept of mind itself is very mysterious, let alone heart and soul. Now, slowly we are beginning to understand these concepts. This, there was a huge study where patients of heart transplants have been studied, where they have seen that these tendencies and behavioral patterns of the person who has received this heart transplant, they were of the person who received that heart. Before receiving, his nature was different, and after receiving this heart transplant, his nature was completely similar to the person from whom he has received his transplant. Now there is so much of research going on about heart as a thinking organ or heart as a feeling organ. So here in this meditation proper, we can just say our inner self, what we meditate upon may not be the physical heart. We focus our attention, we are recognized by the nature of our heart, broad-hearted, soft-hearted, something like that. So we have a concept of mind and heart in the spirituality, where the mind is, a more logical thinking part of it, and the heart is a feeling part of it, where we make use of both these elements to bring a balance in our life. Like a bird flies on two wings, We need materiality and spirituality both. What has happened is we have completely foregone the one of the wing, the deeper spiritual aspect in our life, and leading only a materially focused life, which is causing so much of frustration. The more calculations or more calculative life we try to lead, it will lead us to more frustration only. So we try to balance an inner life with an outer life. That is the concept of this mind, heart, and soul.
Okay, one more thing, and as a parent of 8-year-old, 30-year-old children, I would say that nowadays children are growing up fast. So basically, the query is from what age you think a sort of meditation may not be a same sort what we do for the grown-ups, but even these people are small kids are seem to be very tense these days. Like if an infant is denied a YouTube viewing on the mobile to take the feed and all, the baby gets upset. So that's the kind of modern lifestyle many families are having. So what would be your suggestion for such family?
So this meditation proper, the techniques, 3 techniques that I just mentioned with, the transmission based pranavati and all, this initiating the proper technique is for individuals who have completed 15 years of age. Because our guide says that there should be some degree of maturity within to follow this heart-based system of meditation. But the relaxation technique that I just demonstrated, that can be done at any age, as soon as the child is able to sit comfortably for 5 minutes and grasp this technique, which is seen of immense help. Even we have done this in primary schools, high schools, and some value-based education, some good books, story books, all these things to inculcate values. We are only telling our children what not to do. So all the Western influence is increasing. Instead of that, we have such a huge and rich culture in our own country, in our own past history. The proper techniques we can make use of, and there are some good story books. There are so many techniques for children. There is a program called as Brighter Minds in our curriculum, which will improve the cognitive abilities of the child. It is for children between 5 and 15 years of age, where the left brain and right brain exercises are there. And there, recently you might have seen in this Kaun Banega Karodpati, one child was able to, recognize objects without seeing, read without seeing the text. Such kind of abilities also these children are able to get in a few weeks training program. All these things we can make use of and increase the cognitive abilities of our children, which will help them very much.
Especially in the COVID era, when they are denied social interaction and interaction with peer group. So their mindset and growing up in the social setting has fully changed the last 2 years in particular. So how far this can be done through, as you mentioned, through the mobile devices and online devices, because the screen time is already rising up for the kids.
So this relaxation technique we can make use of from this app for children also. So that gives the thing is, we have to orient them and give them a training that there is something within themselves which they can rely on. See, all our focus from the time we are born, all the sense organs is directed outwards. All our focus is on the external world. Once they start to have a glimpse of the inner beauty within themselves, the behavior, the nature of child will start changing. Even with a 5 minutes relaxation technique, some sitting with just eyes closed for 2 to 5 minutes, there's so much difference that can make for children. We can make use of these techniques.
Thank you, Dr. Gyanendra and Dr. Shibu Ayyappan.
Thank you, sir.
This is an excellent exposure to meditation, and you are able to create an awareness in us how to go ahead in certain circumstances. We may like have another 1 or 2 lectures of US, say 4 weeks, 5 weeks down, which is good to anesthesiologists. And another thing, what I wonder is, I believe in meditation, cerebral cortex is functioning very well. Am I correct? In the meditation also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So where can you compare general anesthesia with a proper medication? Because cortical functioning going on under general anesthesia also. Only slight dulling is there.
Maybe anesthesia is completely opposite to meditation, we can say, sir. Here we are trying to improve or expand the consciousness, or more conscious of our environment, whereas in anesthesia we are trying to suppress the consciousness with medicants. So that is for a specific purpose, of course.
That's there, because I'm not looking at the purposes. Here also in meditation also, you are taking off that particular consciousness level. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
The individual is not conscious, because once he gets into meditation, once he is in deep trance, he is not knowing what is happening around him, because he is in deep meditation. Like that, will we reach the third or fourth
no,
stage
sir.
of anesthesia?
Actually, yeah.
Same sort of situation happens. I am wondering, where is this particular difference?
This meditation, actually, they say it will proper meditation, if done properly, it will not take you to a stone-like state. There are various samadhis, they say, like Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Savikalpa Samadhi, and Sahaja Samadhi. The most superior, what they say is, a person is living normally with a full awareness or consciousness, but still deep within, he is in a kind of state where he is totally balanced, where nothing can throw him off guard. So such a state of awareness that we are trying to achieve in meditation. So anesthesia, of course, we have to use some drugs to produce it, the total unconscious state. I don't think meditation you will be able to get that kind of unaware or unconscious state with meditation.
One thing
So
is that
why I was referring.
Yes, sir.
Years back, one gentleman sadhu or a yogi, I can put it, he came for a hernia repair. He said he don't want any sort of anesthesia. He's going to lie down and he's going into meditation. Once he is in the meditation, well, you can touch me, because give me 10 minutes, I may reach the meditation stage. And you may have to wake me up once the surgery is over. I may not be knowing what is happening around that. Well, I was really wondering, I was thinking this mystic man, or this particular man who says he don't want any painkillers or anything, and he says he may not be remembering what is happening around, and he is quite comfortable. And I was wondering, is it the last stage of meditation or the beginning of meditation? Because he is able to create a situation as if we're going to produce with a little bit of induction agents. That is the reason I was putting the question.
Yes, sir. One thing I want to clarify is that actually one of the definition for meditation is nothing but spiritual anesthesia. So where is this anesthesia occurring? That is a question you are asking, correct?
Yes.
Yes. In general anesthesia, we are blunting the conscious state of mind, where the subconscious mind is still active in a general anesthesia.
Agree.
But in a state of meditation, even when we give a thought to our conscious mind that this pain will not affect us, if we say what do you call, if we say chronic or a meditator for a long time, that conscious thought will sink into our subconscious mind, which can prevent all the impulses occurring in our mind, occurring in our body. That strong will or the thought will get into subconscious mind, which can really control our conscious mind. That is one of the benefit of this meditation. That is why the sadhu has put a very strong thought in his subconscious mind, which has a great influence on his conscious mind as well as his body. That was what happened. This is possible in meditators, in the true meditators, who meditate for a long time, like sadhus, like Buddhist monks, all can do that. It's possible. Because both in meditation, we have a control of our conscious as well as subconscious mind. In general anesthesia, we have only control over our conscious mind.
Thank you for detailing.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
If there are no questions left, I request Sanish to give formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. It's been a different experience for most of us. I think there are many people in the audience who do follow meditation practice. And I'm very happy that my friend Dr. Shibu has suggested that they would be happy to join our ICA Wednesday webinars with an eye-opening session on, or an introduction session on how to cope with the stress, which is mostly very prevalent problem in our modern life. And with heartfulness, we have been very fortunate to get a speaker like Dr. Gajendra Singh, who himself is again a professor of anesthesiology. And I think when we discussed it in our WhatsApp group, he belongs to KMC alumni. So very happy that the speaker himself is from the specialty of anesthesiology. And I think most of us had a very effortless, soothing session, I would say, on resilience. What it means is the meaning of the word resilience was explained excellently. And I think one of the take-home message is when Dr. Gajendra said, if you write a sentence without any pause, nobody can make sense out of it. So to make sense out of your life, our life, my life, I need to have pauses, spaces in between. And this is what he has stressed right from the beginning. Thank you very much, Dr. Gajendra Singh and Dr. Shibu Ayyappan for joining us with an excellent session on resilience, coping with stress. Thank you very much from my own behalf and on behalf of Indian College of Anesthesiologists. Next week, we'll have a session on resuscitation guidelines. Again, I would like to remind you that our ICA conference is happening over this weekend. So do join us for ICA Con 2021, the national conference, 12th national and 2nd international conference of ICA, which is happening in New Delhi at the Eros Hotel. Looking forward to see you there, joining us on that excellent academic feast prepared for you on behalf of Indian College of Anesthesiologists. It's goodbye and thank you and good night to all from Indian College of Anesthesiologists ICA webinars. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.